All right, this is somebody I've never reacted to. He's been making Star Citizen videos forever, but I don't know the guy at all. So I typically do one react for people that I don't know. Although the dude has a react channel, so I imagine he would be okay if somebody reacted to his react. It's Luke Stevens, and this is about something I've been getting so many questions about this. So I'm just going to use this to piggyback off having this conversation around Star Citizen lost $20 million or something on their financial report in 2023. Everyone keeps bothering me and asking me about what I think about it. It's 2025. That's pretty much what my response is to the whole thing. I don't really quite understand why we're freaking out about something that the company survived through over the last 2 years. I have more nuance to what I'm saying, and I will add to it, but let's jump into the video and see what Luke has to say about this, and yeah, have a nice conversation, hopefully.
So something interesting just got sent over to me. Over on the Discord, I had somebody share this. It was actually Forged Horizons shared it. As you can see, another one for our local financial expert, Luke. CIG, Star Citizen peeps, officially put out their full 2023 financials that break down income expenditure for the year. Notably here, they did wind up losing money in 2023 rather than gaining, despite still hitting record numbers. And this is, as you can...
Yeah. Losing and spending might be two different things.
See here, this is this full report, and I actually did go through it. It's interesting, even though it's posted May 2nd, it's the financials for 2023, so it's a bit delayed, but there are some interesting tidbits in here that I thought I would touch on kind of quickly, because they have some, initial, like, really good sounding stuff. Like here, income grew again, up 9% to 143 million, with regular sales up 5%, subscriptions up 23%, and other income up 50%. The latter owing to both the acquisition of Turbulent and a change in our operations as we intensified development in the UK. However, our costs also grew considerably, arising from many strategic and tactical decisions that impacted during the last year. Our cost, this is crazy, increased by 26% to $163 million, driven by increased UK-led development, dedication of resources to Squadron 42, acquisition of Turbulent and adding those roughly 200 people to our and overhead to our cost base.
Yeah, and that's not something you want to just skip over. I imagine he'll go deeper into it, as I'm sure the financial report does. Starting out, I just like the game. I want the game to be good. I don't give a shit about the company whatsoever. I may work on the marketing team, but I don't give a shit about the company at all. All right? Obviously, like, if the company fails, we have no game. So that's, of course, a thing that matters. But if the company loses a little bit of money, or random people that I don't know lose their jobs, I don't know them, so I don't know, like, what you want me to say or feel or do these other things. Like, there's certain devs that hang out in the stream sometimes. Those people I think are really cool. If something happened to those people, obviously I would feel bad. But if it's random, nameless or faceless, or just people that I don't know, it's like, man, if we spend all this time worrying and getting upset about all these things about people we barely know or things we barely know about, it's like, oh my God, it's just crazy. I have enough problems in my life to worry about than stupid shit like this. But to me, I think it's very clear what happened here. You had a team at Turbulent that was also in a city that had very strong and experienced game developers in it, and acquiring a guy like Benoit that clearly has skills that CIG needs, along with other people that have skills that CIG needs. They acquired them in 2023. We got server meshing at the end of 2024. Minus 20 million to gain what the game functions like today sounds worth it to me. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds worth it to me. And I think a lot of people are going, oh my God, they lost money, everything is bad. But acquiring that team and getting server meshing out of it, getting 500 players in a server as a start, obviously, I mean, we saw the test the other day. It's not good, but it's a lot better than it was if they were going to, they've spent 20 million on worse. Let's put it that way, right? They have wasted money way worse. Like, I don't know, the other 780 million that they've thrown away essentially at this point. But yeah, the money spent, or I guess, this is 163 million. So 800 minus 163 is, what, 640 or whatever, right? 637. So that was also thrown away in a lot of ways too. So minus 20 million. I don't think it's as big of a deal, especially considering that the company is here today and kind of survived this loss.
And largest
Somewhat.
CitizenCon ever in
We'll talk
LA
more
to
about that.
showcase improvements. Thus, despite increasing our top line income by $12 million.
Also, this was so stupid. Who remembers LA CitizenCon? I heard some little things. I don't know exactly how much it costs, but I heard it was extraordinarily expensive, which is why the tickets were so expensive, right? I don't even know how much money they made at that CitizenCon, given how much they probably spent. This was really dumb.
We delivered a $14 million loss before CapEx and $20 million loss after for the year using our simple cost accounting basis. And I mean, they go into a lot more detail on all of this, but what's clear is that there was a big shift that happened. Yeah, this should scare you. What's interesting is that late last year, I believe it was, Cloud Imperium and RSI, Robert Space Industries, the guys behind Star Citizen, they announced that they were switching it up. They were actually moving a lot of managers around. They were restructuring. They were doing a ton of things that just seemed surprising because...
Not really. Everyone to the UK. I think everything's cheaper there because they huge tax breaks, all those things.
Typically, they've been kind of slow and steady wins the race. They've been really slow on progress. I mean, again, the first fundraising thing for Star Citizen was back in 2012. 2012. It's been 13 years and the game is still not done yet. It's way bigger than it was initially expected to be, but it's still in the works. And since then, they've raised over $800 million, okay? $800 million through their funding stats page, okay? Absolute madness. Crazy amounts of money have been raised for this game. And as they announced here for their year 2023, as they disclosed here, they're actually losing money at this point, despite raising $800 million. And when they shuffled up a lot of their leadership last year, it was either early this year or late last year, but when they shuffled it up, it was a clear sign that they wanted to make a change. They needed to shift something around. And it seems as though that was done in order to just get the damn thing done. They needed to get Squadron 42 out. They needed to make progress. They needed to actually see this thing through. And it's interesting that it's taken this long for them to finally say, screw it, we just need to figure this out. But as you can see in their work in progress footage from 6 months ago, it does look like they've made a lot of progress on Squadron 42. It actually looks like a game now. It looks real. And I think there's a lot of, positive things, the little face model.
We'll see. I mean, it was just the prologue, and given all of the things that happened around that event, so what happened? Devs were forced to work overtime, to not work on Star Citizen, to not work on any of the things that were going to be related to the other panels like 1.0, any of the weather, org stuff. None of that was, or the current server meshing tests and experiences and all that. I think that they were all taken off to bug fix this demo to make it look good for some reason. For a game they're not even selling at the moment. It was a very odd choice. Sure, it looks good. But most of it was, what was it, 50-50? Cinematics versus gameplay?
Model swapping, I forgot about this. Yeah, watch. His face model just completely swaps. I appreciate that it's real gameplay footage instead of I don't even remember
something
this. Faked. But they just swap face models entirely.
What?
What? I think it also happens to the guy in the background too. You see, his face also changes. So I think everybody's face models changed. It's just weird. This bug. But anyway, weird face model swaps aside. Oh, and it swaps back.
That's fair, because I've only ever watched this one time. the demo. I never wanted to watch it again.
I think that they just need to get it done. And it's clear at this point that the money that's coming in is starting to slow a bit. And if they keep...
I hope he looks at the current funding, because that's also my argument. Losing $20 million in 2023, they have gained back at the start of this year already. What's the... let's take a look. Am I on the PTU page here? No. Let's take a quick look at the funding page for this year. Let's see. I don't know where this would be on the new page, to be honest with you. Funding. Here we go. Under Explore. So, yeah. How much have they made in the last year is hard to say. They only make it so I could see it in a month. I would have to get the... Yeah, we would have to see this, right? There's so much funding, it takes super long. They are already at 35 million. Yeah, let's call it 35 million in the start of May. Last year, they were at 21, let's say. The previous year, at the start of May, they were in the 20s, like just about 21 as well. Gained an extra 14 million. Because the game, honestly, the only argument here is that the game is functioning like just significantly better than where it was before. Because I don't think people would have been buying ships if it wasn't. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Their dev team, as big as it currently is, if they keep their expenses as high as they currently are, they will start to plummet into bankruptcy very, very quickly. The first...
I mean, I agree with that. I don't think they have a lot of cash on hand or anything. Right?
Further out you extend and leverage, the easier it is for things to fall apart.
They would not go into bankruptcy, though. You know what they would do? They would just sell more shares. They would sell more of their pieces of the company because it's still a moneymaker.
Example that my finance professor, Professor Sanning, always gave was, he was like, if you're going to try to keep your arms taut, you keep them close to your body, right? Like if you're going to try to brace up against, two walls and you're between the walls and you just want to hold yourself up, you're going to go like this, use your elbows and keep it close to you because you're not super leveraged out there. It's closer to your body. It's easy. He's like, if you hold something like your arm straight out at your side, it doesn't take a lot of weight or force to pull you down, to pull it all the way down. Because once you overextend, you're over leveraged, a little bit of weight can tear you down real quick. And that's what happens with a lot of companies, is that they expand too quickly, they expand like crazy, and then things go bad for a year or two, and they can't pay everybody's salaries, they can't pay for the leases, everything just implodes.
Which is why a bunch of people got fired. Like they've already done all the things, and all this drama has already happened. Right? Like the restructuring, the moving people, the firing people, the letting people go, the people quitting, this, that, and the other thing. They've already done all of this. It's already happened, right? This was like the Todd Pappy drama and this guy and that guy and every other thing. All this stuff has already happened.
Because they extended out way too far and they became really weak as a result. And I think a similar thing has been happening with CIG and with
that the whole group of QA. I think I've had lots of conversations with people. They don't have like dedicated QA members in their teams and stuff like that as much anymore. And it's because we are, right? And they know that we are. So
RSI just in general, with all of the stuff they've been trying to do, is that they've expanded a ton. They've made acquisitions like of Turbulent. They've done a lot of stuff like that. But like in terms of actual revenue sources, it's not significantly changed. It's kind of the same old, and they are seeing increased like Development costs, as you can see here in 2023, contracted game development costs rose to $12.4 million, a 15% increase. The rest of the world region, headed by the UK, leads all development activities, including turbulent development that was previously managed out of the US. And then you see other things like they threw this CitizenCon that they did.
Whoa. Did they show how much that CitizenCon costed?
That they did. They have other things, CapEx and CitizenCon.
Many elements of the cost line. Okay, so this is what they do. It's so grimy. Publishing operations. So this is actually the cost of pushing patches out to us. I know I said costed. I wanted to take it back the moment I said it. Publishing operations, community. So the salaries of all the community team. And the flight tickets to send, people and devs to Bar Citizens, which is still going on, events and marketing, right? So they're tying all of that in together, so you cannot tell how much marketing costs. And I think they even used to tie server costs into this, right? So web services for third parties, that kind of thing. But they won't tell you what the cost of CitizenCon was. And yeah, a lot.
That they did. They have other things, CapEx and investments. As you can see, year over year, it's been kind of slow and steady where, the blue is the salaries. Purple is other dev costs, which is partially like, contract work, or actually the contract is in the blue. So purple is things like, the new team that they hired, some of the reorganizational stuff. But what's interesting to me is the publishing and marketing. I'm confused where they're spending $40 million on marketing and
They're trying to confuse you, Luke. That's the point. They're literally publishing. It's also insanely big patches that are being released all the time, over and over and over again. People downloading them, so on and so forth. Gigs, petabytes of data being sent around. That's the cost there. And they're putting that in with the marketing, so you can't tell how much they spend on marketing. Marketing might be what they spend on the developers who make the ship commercials as well. They're tying it all together so you cannot tell. This thing is literally put out in a way to be open while at the same time being extremely vague. It's not meant to deceive you, but it's meant to be vague, so it is difficult to call them out on the real problems, right?
Publishing, like, is that the management of like their websites and stuff? That still seems insane, because when else have we seen, like, I guess, you know what, they're probably I think publishing and marketing, that's where they're putting their CitizenCon costs. I see.
Yeah, they're hiding them in there.
I see. Okay. Yep. Despite internalizing our turbulent publishing services through the ROW from July, the bulk of our publishing and marketing operations continue to be run through the US, which accounted for 65% of the spend in this cost category.
That's crazy. So that's server costs. And that is the Austin studio. So it's probably like the rent for the Austin studio. Some of the developers that are on that are, guys, I'm pretty sure the people who work on that stuff are really expensive as well. Maybe it's not their salaries, though. Cost in the U.S. makes sense. Tax write-off. I mean, it's in Texas, so there's not going to be any state income tax there.
Should not be surprising that this spend category is increasing as our game reaches a wider audience, despite, from our perspective, it only just getting out of the prototyping phase. It is essential for us.
They're paying for YouTube commercials, right? Yes, but go look up how much that costs. I don't think it's very much.
To support our expanding community and customer base while ensuring player engagement in the rich environment we are developing. Therefore, we continue to prioritize investment in our servers, platform, community tools to enhance the Star Citizen experience. So maybe publishing, they're also considering server costs, because they say they mention server costs in the same discussion as all of that. Sorry, I realized my...
Exactly, because they do not want you to know how much they spend on server costs. They do not want you to know how much they spend on CitizenCon, and they do not want you to know how much they spend on marketing, because all of those things are not necessarily making the video game, and the community who like CIG has this problem. They're like a YouTuber that reads the comments too much and takes them personally. So CIG has always had this problem where they are very much worried and get offended and bothered by what people say. And they are fearful of, if we knew how much they spend on their servers, that we would lose our minds. They are fearful if we knew how much they spent on marketing, that we would lose our minds. They are fearful if we knew how much they spent on that LA Citizen Con, we would absolutely lose our minds, right? It would probably have made up a lot of these things would have made up that loss, and it wouldn't have been a loss. But at the same time, would they have made it as much? So it's like, it is what it is. They acquired Turbulent, guys. I am 75% through the video, 60% through the video. They acquired Turbulent. Let's not underestimate how important that has been over the last 2 years to finally push the game over, maybe not the hurdle to make the game, but over the hurdle that has held it back so far for so many years. And they spent that money in 2023, and it's paying its dividends back now. I don't think that is that I don't think it's doom and gloom. We know
Camera's
Blues.
been covering it, but maybe that's partially why it is. But yeah, that's a huge chunk of their spend. Like it's 40 million for that. Only 70 million of their annual costs are for salaries paying for employees. So maybe they're putting that in there, like servers. I don't know. You'd think that would be in other dev costs. I'd have to see it broken down a little bit more. As you can see here, general and
you won't, brother. You will not see it broken down.
And they say that this here includes capital expenditure for hardware, software, fixtures, fittings, and offices. So again, servers, you think that, unless they have server infrastructure for like players in a separate category. Either way, it feels like maybe I just need to ask a couple clarifying questions. Like, are the servers people are playing on in the publishing category because you're publishing the game through the servers to people, or is that in or is that in the G&A section? Because that also is very cheap compared to what I would expect it to be. It's just not super clear. Either way, as you see this skyrocket in terms of costs, it's getting exponential. Okay, that's what this is, an exponential increase in spend. But they're not seeing an exponential increase in revenues. They're just not. And that's where they're running into trouble, because if the money they're bringing in is not increasing exponentially, or at least in line with the money that they are spending, that's where they can get into trouble.
What we don't know is, are they exponentially spending more in 2025, right? And they're certainly not outputting exponentially.
Because, for a little while it stagnated, and then up here it did pretty well, but it's not growing at the same pace as their spend is growing from 2022 to 23. And going into 24 and 25, I'm sure that they are expecting a lot of money to be spent, or at least it will have already been spent by the time they disclose it. So all of this to say, I think they just really, really need to get the game out the door. Squadron 42 out the door. And
yes, that game has to go out the door. And the moment that game goes out the door, the spend probably goes down pretty significantly. I think a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of devs in the UK and stuff, and just given the time of day that I stream, and it was always explained to me that how game development kind of works is you have to ship something in order to get like promotions. Like you ship something at one company, and then you share that as your product that you shipped in your portfolio, and then you move up in another company that way. That's like typically how it's working there. And if you work at CIG, you don't ship anything. So the moment Squadron 42 ships, I think a lot of people will probably move around, get promotions, do other things. Working at the same company for a really long time probably is a thing in software. People bounce around as well. And on top of that, I imagine CIG will take its costs and shoot them right down when they're only making one game. You're only as good as your last ship product is a very common notion in game dev, and that comes from a former CIG employee in the chat. So,
once they do that, that should represent a pretty major influx of cash, and I think that's why they're hoping that they can get it out the door so that they can get a big wave of 100, 200, 300 million dollars of revenue that they can then spend to finish up the persistent universe and then launch that as its own living, breathing game. They can set up a subscription model to
Now here's the thing, Mr. Luke, I cannot wait to see those financial reports after Squadron 42 releases, because there are investors in this company, and those investors were specifically stated to have invested in the company to help fund Squadron 42 marketing. That was what the things were communicated back in the day, is that this huge influx of investment from the Calders was specifically for Squadron 42 marketing, so the company can continue to spend and use its open and crowd-funded income on the persistent universe and not use that on marketing. That's how they communicated it to us. Now, what percentage? I heard these Calder guys get percentages of ship sales. And they are certainly going to get a percentage of Squadron 42 sales. How much money is going to be taken out of this company and into the pockets of the people who have been running it and are invested in it when Squadron 42 releases, and how much is going to be left over to actually start, or literally not finish, start working on Star Citizen, right? Because they have been making the tech, but they have not been making the game. And it is going to take a lot of work to get the game to be where they have even remotely communicated it. So those are going to be the most interesting, way more interesting than them losing 20 million.
Generate recurrent revenue and things like that, which they've already played around with. So, all of this to say, it's actually quite simple. They just need Squadron 42 to get out the door and to sell well. That's what they need.
Yeah.
And I think it could. From what I've seen, it looks pretty solid.
Could.
It looks pretty solid. But I mean,
there is no doubt in my mind that it will sell well. Look at it. That's going to draw people in no matter what. People are going to shell out, $70 for this single player game, something like that. They're going to shell out the money. It's going to make money. But how much goes back into Star Citizen, and how will it release? Because again, it's more of like, people will buy it. People will look at a trailer, buy a game, go, wow, this looks really awesome, I want to try it. How many will refund if it's bad? And if it's bad, how will that end up affecting the future of Star Citizen, which is what most people who have currently created that $800 million from is not necessarily from Squadron 42, because the main game that's been marketed the whole time is Star Citizen. So you can very obviously attribute most of that $800 million outside of the investment from the Calders, and whoever else may have invested was from Star Citizen and not Squadron 42, right? So
I mean, the reason that Star Citizen's a scam, Star Citizen is fake, the reason that's a meme at this point is because people have so little confidence in their ability to deliver a finished product anywhere near the timeline that they set for themselves. And, it's fine when you're raking in the dough through hundreds of millions of dollars of pledges. You can take your time and you can miss deadlines, but eventually you've got to kind of step it up and you've got to deliver on what you need to do, because once the money starts to slow or it's not growing as fast as your expenses are, like, playtime's over. We got to figure it out. And I think that's where they're at right now, is they 100%. Just need to get this out the door so that they can
the thing is it's not even where they are right now. This is where they were in 2023. And they've already done this, like, yo, we need to get this thing out of the door. Richard Tyrer's taken over this thing, and Todd Pappy's getting pushed out, and this, that, and the other thing, right? And they've already been through this internally, and now it's like trying to grease the wheels and get them moving a little bit. It's all of this stuff has already happened, and this realization has already happened, right? I think we're just looking at numbers that are 2 years old and going, well, this needs to happen now. It already is. That's why they're not making Star Citizen. That's why there's no devs. Like, I think everybody on this, like, the year of stability thing, I don't even think they were talking about Star Citizen. I'm pretty sure they were talking about Squadron 42 the whole time, and nobody gives a shit about Star Citizen at the company right now because the only focus is get Squadron 42 out the door, right?
Get the cash to finish the game, and then probably scale down. I mean, I don't think they should have anywhere near the employees that they have based on
Correct.
what I've seen
Yeah.
of what they're
They shouldn't need
putting
that
across
many.
and delivering, but I guess time will tell.
How many devs are doing cinematic things in a single player game? Like how many artists are you going to need versus how many engineers and code and game developer, like game designers, right? Things like that. I think the needs for Star Citizen are very different than the needs for Squadron 42.
And time will tell. Either way, I mean, I think, Star Citizen is a really interesting game. I like a lot of what they do. I've played a good amount of it. I've played it on stream with you guys, and I think that there's some really interesting things that they're doing. But they've got to get to the point where they can actually deliver a finished product. I mean, they just have to. At some point after 12, 13 years, it's like...
But dude, I mean, we said that after 6.
Guys, what are we doing?
They're still going.
Come on. We've got to do this. We've got to get this done. And I think they're finally frustrated with it too, which is why they did...
But again, the biggest year in funding they've ever had. So... And they've already done the, whoa, we're spending too much. I wonder if their spend is lower than in 2023. It almost certainly will. They don't have the acquisition, of Turbulent, which I don't know if how much Luke is aware of what happened there, but like Benoit got shares of the company. He got a percentage of the company. There's no LA studio anymore. That's a whole nother thing. And that studio had been like nuked before they even closed it. Right, in terms of developers, they've been spending less, but we don't know how much they're spending. Are they spending more in the UK? And what was that money just shifted, or was it lessened? Was it? I mean, guys, inflation's been a thing. Things cost more than ever, so who knows what the actual spend is? But they're doing what they can. You could tell they have reacted to this, and now we're reacting to it as if it's happening now, and it just doesn't make any sense.
The managerial shakeups, and hopefully we see them actually get it across the board relatively soon. But it's going to be interesting. The thing I'm most interested in is when they do the shift from their current marketing strategy to the new one. Once they bring it to like Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards and announce it there to the broader public, that's going to be really interesting, but we'll see. Let me know.
I'm pretty sure that would be cheaper than whatever their decision making on marketing is now.
What do you think of all this in the comment section below? I'm interested. Does this surprise you that CIG needs money and is trying to get the game out the door so they can get more cash? I don't know.
Same thing, different year.
Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Much love. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses.
All right. I mean, that was my first ever video watching of him on stream. I've watched a few videos. I think his videos are really balanced and cool and good. Obviously, everyone commented on his camera lighting room. It's beautiful. It's awesome. It's just very satisfying to watch. But I think the big thing is I've seen a lot of community members like freaking out over this stuff, and I just like it's already happened. Like all this stuff already happened. You're like living in the future, looking at the past, acting as if the past is the present, and it's just very, very goofy to me. And then if you look at the present, things look a lot better than they did back then. So it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough in terms of how we should feel. Should we be freaking out? It's the first time they ever showed like a significant loss like that. They always kind of fudge their numbers to make it look like they just kind of basically broke even each year, and that was the first like big loss. So I think that's why people are freaking out. But again, they acquired a company, and it's just weird, right? So I don't know. It's just one of those things where I think we're seeing the fruits of that spend right now, and things look better in terms of the way the game is functioning, the way the game is performing. I mean, guys, we had 50 player servers at the time of most of that while that was going on, right? Or like 100 player servers, excuse me. And now we've seen up to 700 something. And yeah. Oh, do not be surprised about a console release. We've seen Chris Roberts' wife mention consoles at a Chinese bar citizen, which is a whole nother thing related to this. They have been spending a lot of time in Asia because that is one of the only markets they hadn't tapped, and all of that started when it started in 2022, 2023. they have been going after every dollar they possibly can because they knew these numbers and they knew what they were spending. So that's what's been going on. It's interesting, but I think people are constantly freaking out because they just want to freak out, and it's not because things are actually worth freaking out over. I think we would already be done if it was things worth freaking out over. I think they'd already be bankrupt or in trouble. It's been 2 years of significant spend, and we're still keeping them alive somehow. There's also some other thing with like loans that were sent around, I remember, that people were freaking out about. Again, I just focus on the game. The game is absolute garbage trash and is not finished even remotely. There are some cool things that are happening, like Luke says, but if you look at the game overall, it's trash and needs a lot of work. And they are working on it because they're doing exactly what was said in this video. Is they just need to get Squadron out the door, and that's all they give a shit about. So here we are.